Okay, good evening, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me know if you guys can hear my audio and see my screen in the chat box. Just give me a little Y or a yes there. Just let me know that you can indeed hear me and see my screen there. Just want to welcome everybody here. I'm excited for this webinar. I've spent some time preparing this. I've learned a lot about a couple of different prop firms, and I'm excited to present on what I've put together. I love your guys' recommendations. You guys gave me a chance to look at some really unique prop firms, some of which, like I said, I learned some new things, some unique things pertinent to different prop firms. Also, a couple of different challenges that some prop firms have adopted, like a four-phase challenge. We're going to look at a company that does a four-phase challenge tonight, which will be pretty cool. First time I've ever heard of it, so I'm excited um, to dive into that. And yeah, we got that. We're going to talk about, what prop firms are for those that are new, the advantages and disadvantages. We're probably going to do that first and go over the pros and cons, what it generally takes to pass a prop firm challenge, and then towards the end we'll go over the actual review of the prop firms that you guys have sent in over the last few weeks. We do this class once a month, every last Wednesday of the month at 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Yeah, like I said, every last Wednesday of the month. So if you guys ever want me to review a prop firm, send me those prop firms throughout the month so that I can get them on the slideshow for each month coming. So, all right, like I said, I just want to welcome everybody here. Also want to give a shout out to those watching this in the recording or watching this on YouTube. Want to say hello to you guys. If you guys have questions throughout the webinar, if you're here live, feel free to ask those questions in the live chat box function. If you're watching this in the recording, feel free to ask those questions in the comment section down below. All right, guys, before we jump into this, as always, I need to remind you guys about the risks involved in this market. You can lose all or more than your initial investment if you're not careful. So please be aware of how many pips you're risking on each trade, in addition to how big your lot size is and how that would affect your account if you were to lose money. So make sure that you're going through that process each and every time that you take a trade. All right, guys. So first of all, let's talk about what prop firms are. For a lot of you, this is old hat. I understand that, but we do have a lot of new folks to the prop firm world. We've also had several new folks join the program recently, so we want to make sure that everybody knows what this is all about before we jump into the reviews. I know a lot of you guys are here just for the review part, but I do want to make sure that everyone at least is on the same page um, before we uh, before we jump into the reviews. So let's talk about what prop firms are. So you can read that if you'd like. I'm going to summarize it. So prop firms are companies. These are these are not companies that I own. I'm often a customer to these companies, but they solve a problem in the industry. So one of the big objections I get from people who are newer to trading is they come to me and they say, "Hey, Steve, I'd love to trade, but I can't trade even if I learned the skill because look, just I don't have the funds to be able to trade. And so I don't think I could ever get to the point of being a successful trader because even if I was successful, I wouldn't be able to make a substantial return." And that is a valid objection. There are a lot of ways to solve that, including, if you don't use a prop firm, it might just take you longer, more time, more diligence and discipline to save up money weekly or monthly to get to the account size that you're hoping to get to, in addition to your trading profits. So that's one way. You can fast track that, but there are risks and pros and cons to this through the prop firm industry. So the prop firm industry decided to solve this challenge by offering funding to successful traders. So if you can prove that you are indeed a successful trader, these prop firms will give you access to typically funds in the neighborhood of, let's see, it can be as low as just a couple $1,000s. I've seen accounts in the millions. The standard, I would say, is an account between 50 and $200,000. I would say probably most people just go for 100K or a 200K account is probably what I see the most. That's also been the case for me. Why is 100K a big deal? Why is a 200 grand a big deal in this market? Well, if you're trying to make like something between like 3 and 10% a month with your strategy, which is a pretty common, um, I would say that's a pretty common, I guess, goal, a monthly goal return in the trading world, the forex trading world. And so if you can make 3 to 10% on 100 grand, that's $3,000 to $10,000 a month. If you can do it on 200 grand, now you're looking at 6,000 to 20,000 a month. And what kind of number does that symbolize? Well, that for most folks is freedom, because if you can make 6,000 to 20,000 a month, that would replace the vast majority of most folks' salaries or wages that they make at a job. So that's probably why a lot of people aim for that 100 grand or 200 grand account. And so, like I said, they fill in that gap by offering this service. Now, what's in it for them? Because obviously, that's a tremendous opportunity to be able to get access to $100,000, $200,000, and to get there quickly rather than having to save it up yourself, right? So what's in it for these prop firms? Well, a couple of things. Prop firms often do this is there's we'll start with this one first. So their motivations, their incentives start with this way. If you make money, often they make money. Now, this isn't always the case. We're going to talk about the other side of that in just a moment. But some prop firms, when they fund you 100 grand, they don't give you all your profits. A lot of them have profit splits. In fact, all the prop firms I know have profit splits anywhere between as low as I've seen as low as, well, 50, 50, 50. That's pretty low. And I've seen prop firms that give up to 95%. The standard is about 80% profit splits. So if you make $10,000 in a month, you would keep 8,000, that's 80%, and they would keep 20%, which is $2,000. And so if you're a successful trader, their funds are growing. So these are not your funds. You're just privied and privileged to trade those funds if you do become a funded and successful trader with these prop firms. So that's one example of how prop firms could potentially make money. I think the most well-known and understood way for prop firms to make money is through their funding challenge fees. So whenever you want to show these prop firms that you are a successful trader, you have to start what's called a challenge. And we call it a prop firm challenge. And what is a prop firm challenge? This is a challenge where you go into the live markets. They issue you a demo trading account. These are also known as simulated trading accounts in the amount that you're applying for typically. So this would be like $100,000 simulated account, $200,000. And then you would proceed to start trading your strategy and showing what you're made of. If you can complete and make a certain return, typically this is like 10 to 15%. If you can make a 10 to 15% return, then the prop firm will then fund you the amount, and you'll have trading access to a new account, which is now live. Okay, now in order to get this privilege of, and it is a privilege, right? Like if you want to be able to prove your worth, it's not free. These firms, they take you on, they provide support, they provide their technologies and platforms. Many of them have to sublease and license platforms to be able to service you. They have to hire people. So this isn't something that you can just get access to for free in most cases. And so you have to pay what's called a prop firm challenge fee. These fees can be a little bit pricey. So for example, the standard, and this isn't the same for all companies, but the standard would be like $500 to apply for a $100,000 account. It's usually around $1,000 if you want access or a privilege to at least go for a challenge or audition for a 200K account. This is different. Like when I played sports growing up, I was a football player. All throughout high school, I played football, and I'd auditioned for the team each year. And when I first started playing, I wasn't very good, and I didn't have a lot of training. The first ever team I auditioned for, tried out for, I didn't even make the team. I got cut. And so I had to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to do that the next year. I didn't have to pay anything. The worst thing that happened to me is,
Hey traders, it's Steve from the future. I hope you have enjoyed this video so far. If you are getting value out of this video, be sure to hit the like button, click the subscribe button, and share your trading thoughts. I read all the comments, so feel free to ask any questions you have there too. On a side note, I host live trading calls like this one you are watching every day. Some of my biggest trading secrets I share exclusively to just the members in my program. I host these live trading calls every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I also host a basic training webinar every Monday for the newer traders and the regular COT report and sentiment trading webinars every Wednesday night at 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern for the advanced and aspiring traders. All of these calls are recorded and promptly posted on the members' trading calendars at the conclusion of each call in case your schedule does not permit you to come to the live call. All of my members have complete access to the scanner. We call it Steve Scanner. This is an institutional grade trade alert scanner that picks the direction of the week on all 28 major currency pairs and includes trading instruments like gold, silver, NAS 100, US 30. Just in the last 90 days, I have made over 3,000 pips just taking the top trade signals from the scanner at the beginning of the week and then just holding those trade alerts until Friday. If you want access to the scanner, you can start a 14-day free trial with the join link in the description to get started. Lastly, if you really want to be a full-fledged VIP member of my program to get access to things like the basic training course, live signals channel, Steve's scanner, trading calendars, and the one-on-one calls with me throughout the month, you can use code YouTube50, that's YouTube50, no spaces at checkout, and save $50 on your first month. Again, just click the link in the description below and apply that coupon to become a VIP member, and I look forward to helping you with your inevitable trading success going forward. Now, back to the video.
And then, well, I'll tell you, at the time it was devastating, right? To not make the football team when it was my dream, that was really hard. So I came back and got and made it the next year. But in prop firm trading, it's similar, but you actually have to pay a fee just for the privilege to try out. You can't just show up on tryout day with your sneakers and show up and expect to, if it doesn't work, no harm done. There can be harm done here, and the harm that could happen is you don't pass. This is very common. I want to just share some quick statistics with you that I think would be important to know before we continue this conversation. So this is, first of all, before I share these statistics with you, this is amazing, right? To be able to get funded and start making profits monthly, biweekly, daily, depending on how the prop firm works. This is amazing. There are dozens and dozens, if not, well, not dozens, it's hundreds. There's hundreds of these companies out there, and there's more and more every week and every day that come out, new prop firms. Okay. So this is an amazing service that fills a tremendous need in the industry. But it comes with its significant risks. So let me share some statistics with you. FTMO indicated that over 95% of people who attempt challenges with them, prop firm challenges with them, wind up eventually failing their challenge. So anybody who paid, let's say 100 people paid them $1,000, uh, they collected 100 grand, and 95,000 of that were from people who would never ever, at least with the challenge that they paid for, would never actually get funded. And they just are, SOL, right? They just lose the challenge fee. And then others get funded, and you still have to follow specific rules. We're going to get into those rules in just a moment. So you still have to follow those rules, and you're still on your toes even when you are a funded trader. So many of those actually lose. I don't know the statistics on it, but many of them will actually lose money still, even though they've been funded and went through that rigorous, they went through the combine, so to speak, and passed. Okay. Another statistic that's important to know, actually, I'll just share this from FTMO. FTMO last year in 2023, they brought in 400 and I don't remember exactly, but it's between 400 and 500 million dollars. That's a half a billion, just shy of half a billion with a B, in prop firm fees. Okay, so these are from people from all around the world, all 195 different countries, and they brought in nearly a half a billion dollars. Does anybody know? I've shared this before. So does anybody remember how much they paid out last year to their traders? It was still a large amount. It was in the millions, but does anybody know how much that was? Does anybody want to take a guess real quick, just in the chat box function there? I'm just curious if anybody want, or you guys just take your own guesses. So they brought in 500 billion. Let me know your best guess in the chat box. 500 billion is what they brought in. How much of that do you think they actually made in payouts and paid out to the trader? Any guesses? Curious if anybody wants to make a stab at it. Billion, okay. 30 minutes. Yeah, I think Gus got it. Yeah, so it's 29 million. So pretty much we'll just say 30. So yeah, Gus, you got it. 200 million right there from Danny. Yeah, so 30 million. So basically it's like 8% of their, I'm doing rough math here, but it's like 8% of what they brought in is what they had to pay out to traders. So it's like if you think about it, these guys make out like freaking bandits. They make so much money, and if they provide a good service to people, and people are willing to pay them, they're going to continue to make a lot of money. So it's a lot. Yeah, paid 29 million out in payouts. And collected almost a $500 million. So it's a big industry. And it's actually, I've looked into this. I actually have had several people approach me wanting to put together a prop firm. I've so far declined because I really like the industry that I'm in, which is the coaching and educational side. And then I also just kind of want to be my own independent trader as well. So I haven't really wanted to get into that, even though I guess it could be a big business opportunity. It's not always like for me it's not always business, right? But like it's cool thought at least, but it's highly so far unregulated. There are a lot of laws coming out that are currently in the courts around the world that different countries are cracking down on these companies. And I don't, people have asked me all the time, like, how do you see this industry? Because obviously they're making a lot of money. Is this something that governments will crack down on? Yeah, for sure they will. But I personally, I don't believe that because I get this question a lot. I don't think this is going away. I think it just will be reformed, just like anything. Same thing with like crypto. Crypto, the technology is not going away. Will it be reformed? Of course, absolutely. But the technology is here to stay, right? It's the same. That's this kind of similar opinion that I have with prop firms. Okay, so so these guys are highly incentivized, not all of them, but some of them are, depending on how they operate, are incentivized for you to actually fail because if you fail, they can collect on that money. Like the money that you paid them, they can finally settle and it's now profit for them. But if you pass, depending on how they operate, like they may not want you to pass because if you pass, a lot of these companies actually pay you out from the funds they receive from these prop firm fees. Other companies do want you to be successful. Again, you have to kind of dig in to find out what their primary source of income is, or that's one of the reasons why I actually like Funded Trading Plus is because they actually pay out with real accounts, live money. Um, and so when you make money, you actually make their firm money, which is obviously a good thing. But all right, so I just wanted to share that. Let's continue on here. So because we do have several reviews to get to, but I just want to share those few statistics with you. So it is important to know that a lot of people fail. So if you're ever going to start one of these challenges, you got to pretty much darn know that you can pass. And so it's important to know what the rules are. These are some general rules of prop firms. Now, this is not every single rule, and every prop firm is a little different. We're actually going to look at a few in just a moment. But a lot of companies have rules that are not necessarily written right in plain English in front of you. Sometimes you have to dig into the fine print to find specific rules or look up reviews from people who maybe didn't know those rules beforehand and got burned in the process. These are real considerations that have to be made. We're actually going to look at some unique rules that I want you guys to look for if you ever decide to dig into a prop firm challenge. I'm going to show you the rules that really typically hit traders in the end. Okay. And so if you're aware of those rules, you can kind of determine which prop firm you'd probably like to go with, right? First and foremost, though, before obviously get into those rules, in my experience, if again, if you're already a good trader and you've had success in a demo and your own personal live account, often those folks pass. But if you're not passing yet, or if you're not doing well on the sidelines, then don't even think about starting a prop firm challenge yet. Um, I'm never going to recommend a prop firm challenge, but I will give you the tips and tricks that I think would be helpful if you decide that you want to go the prop firm route. Okay, so these are some general rules of prop firms. So most prop firms offer what's called a one phase or two phase challenge. I typically like to go with the two phase challenges. The reason why I like two phase is it does require more trading, but they're usually less expensive. So if you're already a good trader, you might as well save money on the prop firm audition fee and just trade better and a little bit longer. The one phase challenges are attractive to other traders because they don't require as much trading, but they cost more money. So it depends. You kind of pick your poison with, which one you want to do there. This is pretty standard. Most prop firms give you a max drawdown of 10% while you're trying to audition. And this is also true when you're funded. So, what this means is they issue you an account to trade with, and you cannot lose more than 10% of that initial balance. And sometimes these balances can be trailing drawdowns. So you have to check if you start to make money, does that drawdown trail as you make money? Others are balance based, or we call them fixed balance drawdowns. And I'm going to show you a couple of companies that offer that I think you guys will like. Okay, and then another pretty common rule is they give you it's a max of 5% daily drawdown. So this means you can't lose more than 5% in a day. Those are the two biggest rules. Most people who ever fail their challenges break one of those two rules. Okay. In fact, that's like 80%. It's something high up in there. So if you fail your challenge, it's probably because one of those two things. So you're already more than halfway there if you understand those two rules, and if you stay within those guidelines, you should be fine. So if you ever trade a strategy that requires a lot of daily risk, you may want to reconsider, because you got to make sure that you fit within that. Same thing with the 10% drawdown. You got to make sure that your strategy does not draw down significantly. So that means you're stopping out correctly. That means you're using a lot size calculator, and that you're cutting your losses short, because inevitably we're all going to have losses. We just got to make sure that those are cut off so that you don't fail your challenge. Most prop firms require a minimum of 5 days to trade. This is usually not an issue if you're a swing trader, because a lot of our trades take several days anyways. And then typically you got to make a 10% return in phase one, and then a 5% return in phase two. Every company is a little different, but that's why I say you have to make a total of 15%. Once you've made a 15% return, then you're a funded trader, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's do some reviews, guys. So I think this is good up to this point. We've got several companies to review tonight, actually, and now we're actually making good time, so this is good. So Funder Pro, I had several people ask me to review Funder Pro. I've known about this company for over a year now. I've never actually done a challenge with them. There's a few reasons for that. We'll get into it, but I want to talk about their pros and their cons here. We may actually go to their website if we have enough time. But let's start off with Funder Pro. So this company is located in Malta, which is a island in southern Europe. It's actually in the Mediterranean Sea. So anyway, if you're curious where they are, that's where they are. They're founded in 2019. Their site's funderpro.com. They actually don't have a lot of reviews. This was kind of surprising to me, because I've known about these guys for a long time. There's been a lot of chatter about these guys for a while, and it's pretty cool that these guys have actually continued their operation amidst a lot of industry challenges that we've had over the last couple of months. Like a month or two ago, there was a lot of challenges with MT4 MetaQuotes leaving the space to US traders. So a lot of prop firms had to switch over to different platforms. These guys were already like all over it, Funder Pro. So that was pretty awesome. And so they continue to operate and do well from what I can see. And I've known about these guys for a while. I've never done a challenge with these guys, but um, never done a challenge with these guys, but uh, there's a lot of good things. We'll look at the good and the bad with these guys. So let's take a look. So they do daily payouts, which is awesome. That's when you're funded. I do think there's a stipulation though with the first payout. I think the first payout you have to wait 2 to 4 weeks or something like that. But then after that, you can request that payouts daily. They allow up to 80% profit splits on all accounts. That's standard. This to me is probably the best pro is they have no trailing drawdown, which is awesome. You guys know how I feel about trailing drawdowns. I do not like them. In fact, I hate it so much that I often will not ever start a prop firm challenge with a company that has a trailing drawdown unless that company has so many other benefits in other areas that I can look past it. But if a company doesn't offer what we call a fixed or balance-based drawdown, I really struggle to start a challenge with that company. I definitely need to see this. And the reason why is because everybody experiences drawdowns. No matter how good their strategy is, there's always going to be drawdown periods. And so if you happen to make a lot of money pretty quickly in your challenge account, but then a week or two later you start to pull back and you have some losers, um, what these guys do, let me give you an example of well, these guys don't do this, but a trailing drawdown works like this. Let's say you have 100 grand, you take that account up to um, let's say you take it up to 105. So you've made $5,000. With a trailing drawdown, you could go down to as low as 90K because that's 10% of that's a 10% drawdown of 100. So you could lose 10 grand basically. Um, with trailing drawdowns, if you go up to 105 and you start to pull back, now the trailing drawdown's at 95,000 because you constantly keep that gap of 10 grand. But now instead of having 15,000 that you could potentially lose because you had a pullback, um, you still have 10 grand, but it keeps trailing. So let's say you get up to 105 and then you get up to $106,000. Now your drawdown's at 96. So if you pulled all the way back to your baseline, you'd only have 4 grand to work with before you'd get kicked out. Versus with a balance-based drawdown, if you went back to your baseline and your losing streak persisted, you'd actually have all the way to 90K to go. So that's why I love balance based I think the fixed drawdowns, and there's another word for them that I like. These guys do that. So that's a good thing. And whenever I see companies with fixed or balance based drawdowns, to me that tells me that they care a little bit more about the trader. They're not as greedy as it seems. Again, I've never done a challenge with these guys, so I can't say for sure, but those are always good signs to me when I see a company does a balanced base versus a trailing drawdown. So I just wanted to share that. That's probably one of the biggest tips I have as far as determining if a company's worthwhile or not, is because if they do a trailing drawdown, then there's probably other rules in there somewhere that are not going to be very good. Okay. Other cool thing is they offer a free trial. I love this. FTMO offered this to everybody before they stopped servicing US clients. And I love free trials because that kind of gets you acquainted with their platform, helps you get to know their support team, and you can kind of get comfortable with it before you decide to put a bunch of money down and actually jump into a challenge. So I love free trials. They do offer that. You can sign up for a free trial. Um, let's see. They offer news and weekend holding, which is nice. So obviously, if you wanted to use these guys for like our price action trades that we send out, then you could certainly do that. Because a lot of our price action trades and limit orders get held over the weekend, and you wouldn't have to worry too much about those, which is nice with these guys. 24/7 support. They have three basic challenges. They have a one phase, two phase, and three phase swing challenge. The downside to the swing challenge is that it offers a 1 to 30 leverage instead of a 1 to 100. The thing is, I never need more than 1 to 30. In fact, I honestly think with the trades we take, we could get away with just like 1 to 20. So 1 to 30 is lower, but I don't know. With the style of trading we do, I don't think you'd ever need more than that anyway. So I think it's great. Um, um, Let's see. Let me see. Oh, so they changed that recently. That's interesting. Gus also says percentage win up to 5 or 6% in free trial can be carried over to funded challenge. Oh, that's cool. So I didn't know that. You can carry over some of your wins into the funded challenge. That's awesome. Okay, so this is something interesting. They have this thing called a unique consistency rule, or it's just called a consistency rule, period. And a lot of prop firms are actually starting to adopt this, and I don't like it. I actually talked to a few traders today, or one trader today and another trader a few days ago about this, where they had an issue with a different prop firm with this thing called consistency rule. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this before, but a consistency rule is basically where, and everybody has it a little bit different, but it's basically where, let's say you start taking trades and let's say you take a trade with one contract, and then the very next trade, you take it with 10 contracts because that's what that trade needed was 10 instead of one. Or let's say you switch around and you go to 15 or you go back down to two contracts on the next trade. So the consistency rule um, states basically that they don't want your lot sizing between trades to be more than a certain amount. From what I've seen, a lot of the times, like it's usually I'm not saying theirs is like this, but the one that I saw earlier with a different company stated that like if you took a trade with one contract, and that was your lowest lot size, your biggest contract size cannot be four times that. So your next trade can't, and any trade that you take from there on out can't be more than like four times that. So you couldn't take more than four contracts. If you took more than four contracts, they technically do have grounds to cancel you and not pay you out. With the trader I talked to today, they didn't actually fail their challenge, but what ended up happening because this person was funded is they couldn't collect payout because when they looked through that trader's like order history, they found like several different orders that were like some had a 1.0 contract and some of them had like a 10 contract. And for them, that was not okay. So this is I'm not a big fan of this because sometimes I feel like you could be employing two different strategies to pass a challenge, or maybe you know, you're trading a different currency pair that is vastly different from the previous current currency pair you were just trading. And so I'm not a big fan of this rule. It does, um, to me, it's almost like a way for prop firms to just have grounds to, I think the way they view it is it's like a way for them to basically close somebody's account if they want to pretty easily. And so I don't like that they just try to find to me, it's like they're trying to find ways to protect themselves and not you. And so that was kind of a bummer to me when I saw that. I don't know if it's a deal breaker, but I want you to be aware of that before you jump into that. You may want to look into the specifics of their consistency rule. And if you ever want to work with me and go into those specifics because you want to go with these guys, I'd be more than happy to do that with you. Um, let's see. Let me read some of these. Um, see, Muhammad says, I guess the bright side is it does help you control your risk and not over leverage, but I dislike it. Just another way for them to speed up your fill. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think some of those things could be good to help you. It's the same thing like a year ago before we had these non-time limit challenges, which is obviously less than a year old. When I was doing challenges with FTMO, we had time limits. What was nice about the time limit challenges is that I was kind of, I had to create money sooner, right? Like I didn't have the luxury of just sitting on an account and just hoping that it would pass, sooner or later. But at the same time, if you failed, you'd fail and you're done, right? Sylvia says, "What if I want to use my own money? How much do I need to start?" That's a great question. Sylvia, we can talk on another call about that, but basically, you can start with if you wanted to open up a broker account that's not with the prop firm, you could certainly do that. You could start with as little as you want or as much as you'd like to start with. If you're newer to trading, which I spoke with you earlier, I would probably start on the lower side. In the beginning, I would always recommend to anybody that you start with a demo account as a new trader, just to make sure that you know how to use a lot size calculator, that you know how to take trades and make the mistakes early in a demo. And then pretty quickly, it doesn't take too long to start trading live. I just want to make sure that the big mistakes happen on a demo first before we start to go live. But yeah, it's a great question. All right, guys. I think okay, let me just finish up here. Their fees are a little bit higher, about 10% higher. I looked at all their challenge fees, and yeah, it's pretty consistent, about 10% higher than the average. Like for example, their 200K challenge is $1,100 instead of 1,000. Their 100K challenge is 600 instead of 500. So it's 550 instead of 500. So yeah, it's 10% more than the average. Okay. If you guys have other questions about Thunder Pro, let me know and we can go back to that slide. But let's move on to Funded next. Okay, so this was one that got added. These guys are huge, actually. This is a big, big fat company. They have 14,000 reviews. And I think I saw Roger mention earlier that reviews don't necessarily mean a lot because My Forex Funds was a company with like the most reviews on Trustpilot, and they most by and large were pretty good reviews, and they still went out of business. So reviews aren't necessarily the best thing, but it is something to at least pay attention to. I would like to see at least what the reviews say before I jump in. And so it is kind of somewhat comforting to see that they do have 14,000 reviews, because some of the other ones, like the one we just looked at, didn't even have 1,000 reviews, or even 500. So this is pretty good. Um, but let's talk about Funded next. So these guys are in the UAE, which is the United Arab Emirates. It's where Dubai is, and the big tall Burj Khalifa. That's where these guys are. They were established in 2019, which is actually pretty old in the prop firm industry. That's a long, long time. I know that's just 5 years, but that actually is a long while. They do up to 95% payouts. They do accounts up to 300K, but I looked further into it. They actually do funding up to 2 million, but you can apply for accounts up to 300, which is pretty cool. Uh, they also paid out $95 million since they established. That's actually a good amount of money that they've paid out over 5 years. Yeah, that's no small amount, which actually to me that's a good thing to see, because that means to me they're not gonna, I mean, obviously a lot of prop firms people are gonna fail, but if you've generally been following the rules, my guess is if you were to go with this company and you got to the point of payout, I would have a higher level of confidence that you would indeed get that payout, because there's other companies where I've just heard all the horror stories and they don't pay out. Um, and some of them have been somewhat reputable as well. Obviously, you think they owe you a payout, and they do. But like I said, you want to find companies that have high track records of payouts, where they actually do pay their traders. So it's pretty cool to see nearly $100 million in actual payouts. That's not a small amount of money. That is, in fact, a large amount. They do have 97,000 traders worldwide. Um, they also share payouts from your challenge phase, 15% of that, which is awesome. They also do a balanced based drawdown, which is fan freaking tastic. I love that. That's like always going to be my favorite pro of pretty much, because I've failed a lot of challenges in the past for not having balance based drawdowns. And they do have a balance. So that is a good thing. I love it. They do MT4 and MT5 for non-US traders, and C Trader for everyone else. So if you're living in the United States, you're going to be on the C Trader platform with these guys. Max drawdown is 10%. Standard 5% daily. That's also good. Weekend holding, news trading allowed. They also do a 10% reset discount. So if you guys fail your challenge, and you want to reapply, you can reapply with a 10% reset discount, which is kind of nice. I think a lot of places offer that. And if they don't offer it explicitly, my guess is with a lot of companies, if you were to write them back an email or a message, my guess is they would probably do it. I know a lot of companies do that, not just these guys. Um, Mohammed says that 15% payouts from challenge phase is savage, feeding into your greed and encouraging you to keep trading, not even trading even after you pass is not cool. Yeah. Yes. Feeding it, yeah, see, feeding into your greed and encouraging you to keep trading even after you pass is not cool. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think I'm trying to follow along with what you're saying there, but um that is actually that is pretty nice that they will pay you that, but I also see how that would hurt the newer trader because if you're trading subjectively, trying to increase your amount of money because you're realizing that that money could potentially pay you out, I could see how a trader would could fail if they're not being careful. So I see where you're coming from as well. But it is nice that, if you're just trading normally, that you could get some of that money back, which is kind of nice. Um, Prices are a little bit higher than average. They're 5% higher than I would say your standard. That's a little bit less than Funder Pro, but still higher than most. Um, they do time challenge on evaluation accounts. So this was a huge bummer for me, like serious bummer. I honestly was so bummed out by this because um this basically goes back to the old ages of funded accounts and prop firm challenges. So basically, with these guys in your first phase, phase one, you have 4 weeks to pass. And in phase two, you have up to 8 weeks to pass. So this basically reminds me of FTMO's basic challenge from a couple years ago. That's how it was. You had a month and then 2 months to pass. So you don't have unlimited time with these guys, unfortunately. So if your trading takes a dive early on, you're probably going to fail the challenge, unfortunately, with these guys. So to me, that was such a bummer that I honestly probably wouldn't go with these guys because of that. Unless you were to try one of their other types of challenges. They have one phase and other types of challenges that are unlimited time. But the problem with those challenges is that you don't get the 10% max drawdown or the 5%. It's more like a 4% daily and like an 8% total or something like that. And there's a few other stipulations as well. So you could look into those, but I try to just do evaluations only. And so when I saw that their evaluation accounts had time limits on it, I was kind of bummed. 1 second, guys. I'm going to close my blinds. The sun's just coming in just right now. So 1 second. Okay, there we go. Kind of was getting in my face there. All right, let's move on. So, do you guys have any other questions about Funded Next? Just wanted to share that with you. I mean, they're a good company. Like from what I can tell, they seem good. I've never done a challenge with them, but I mean, if any of you have done a challenge with them, let us know what your experience is like. But they've been I mean, they seem obviously really big. I love that they've paid out so much. I don't know if it's a deal breaker. Um, For you, it probably would be a deal breaker for me just because of this one thing right here. But I mean, if I got a challenge from these guys, I probably could pass it. I just have to be a little bit specific and a little bit more on top of getting it done. All right, let's talk about Rebel Funding. This is a company or Rebels Funding. I've never heard of these guys before until today. This is one of the challenges that came up in this class this morning. Um, they have a four-phase challenge, which is very interesting. I've never heard of a four-phase challenge before until today. So we can discuss basically what this looks like. They have, by the way, tons of programs. Like they have probably like 5 or 6 different uh, programs you can choose from. Honestly, I don't really like it when companies have so many different programs to choose from because it's just confusing, right? I'd almost prefer just give me 2 or 3 programs that are pretty basic and straightforward with good rules, and I'll pass that challenge, right? Like that's just kind of what I want. But these guys have a lot. It is interesting, but you can kind of get lost on their site. That was at least my experience. They do have lots of leverage, which is great if you're a scalper or something. We don't really need that much if you're swing trading. Their fees are generally lower. I couldn't say exactly how much lower because their programs are so different, and I don't know if it's apples to apples with a lot of other programs, so I didn't want to put a number on this, but I could tell that their fees were a lot lower, especially on the four-phase challenge. It does require a lot more trading on a four-phase challenge, but that's why it's going to be cheaper. It's kind of like a it's an ebb and flow type of thing, an inverse correlation. When you have more trading required, you don't have to pay as much, right? Max drawdown is 10%, and daily drawdown is 5, which is good. This was really concerning to me because on the last page we just looked at Funded Next, and they've paid out $95 million plus to their traders over the last 4 or 5 years, but these guys have only paid 400K out. That is not a lot of money, guys. Like that's nothing. That is like in comparison, it's almost as if these guys have never paid out. Also, keep in mind, Funded Next has paid out. Again, I'm not trying to endorse them. I'm just trying to illustrate the difference. Funded Next paid out 95 million with 97,000 different traders. These guys have 15,000 traders, which is like 5 times less. Yeah, 4 or 5 times less, but they've paid out many hundreds of times less in payouts, right? So that's the disconnect that I'm seeing is they have, they are a smaller company. They have about 5 times fewer traders. But as far as what they've actually paid out, it's many hundreds of times less than Funded Next over their lifetime. And these guys have actually been around for a while. They used to be more of an educational company. They've now changed their offering. They're now more of a prop firm rather than teaching education. I guess they found a way to make more money, so they do that instead. But that was a big concern to me that these guys have not paid a lot out. So I don't, it's just something that I was a little bit worried about. Another thing I just wanted to show you guys as well. Um, oh, I didn't do the other info. They're in Slovakia. They've been around for a long time, but not as a. I couldn't find out when they started as a prop firm though. So they've done stuff before, but I don't know when they started. They have 884 reviews. Um, 4.4 is actually not that good, especially for 800 reviews. I'd like to probably see that around like 4.8, 4.6. So that actually means they've probably got a lot of one-star reviews, which tells me that unfortunately, I didn't really dive into it, but I assume that there's probably a lot of people that never got paid out with this company. So it was a little bit of a concern to me when I saw that this is, I mean, they have some interesting things. Like, let me explain how their four-phase challenge is. Like, it's typically you have to make a 5% return in each phase. They give you a new account for each phase, so you'd potentially have up to 4 accounts before you'd get funded. And after you made the 5% on the last and fourth account, your fifth account would finally be funded. So 5 accounts later, you're finally a funded trader. And that just seemed like a lot of stuff to go through, a lot of hoops to go through. But like I said, the pros to that is you get probably a cheaper challenge. It doesn't cost as much to do that. So there's that. But I would say for me personally, I probably would not trade with these guys. It was something like, I don't know, it just kind of wasn't. I mean, I saw some interesting sparks that were kind of cool, but I probably wouldn't do a challenge with these guys. So I just wanted to in the end share that with you because it looks like there's a lot of hoops to go through in order to actually get funded versus like some of the other companies like Funder Pro, I think might be a little bit better. Of the three we looked at tonight, I would probably say Funder Pro is probably the one I would go with. The only downside that I felt like was something that you'd really want to pay attention to with Funder Pro is the consistency rule. That's really it. So, as long as you can make sure that you fall within that, I think you'll be just fine. And then Funded Next is really good too, other than time limits on their evaluation challenges. And then Rebels funding, like I said, just a lot of different hoops to go through, but it is an interesting concept. And hopefully it has success. Maybe they find ways to improve it in the future, but I don't think it's for me, but maybe it's for you guys. And you guys can go check out their site if you want to. So, all right, guys. This is all I had time for tonight, and this is what I put together. There was like one or two other companies that came in late that we'll review next time. Specifically, I have it written down here. It was funding traders or something like that. And if I missed other companies, I do apologize. So send those to me now so that I can start getting the slideshow ready for the next month. All right. Any other questions before we start to wrap up? I think I got to everybody, which is good. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we'll do COT report. That'll be in 10 minutes, about 11 or 12 minutes, I guess. And we'll have a COT report discussion. So anyway, guys, thanks for coming. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys in the next webinar.